Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 21 Hats podcast. I'm your host, Lauren Feldman. This week, Stephanie Stuckey talks about how she's been winning her biggest retail accounts for Stuckey's candies without a sales pitch. She also explains her latest manufacturing snafu, which she calls the case of the squishy pecan log rolls. Laura Zander, meanwhile, tells us about the supply chain challenges she's faced getting product from China, Vietnam, and South Africa. Plus, she talks us through how her latest price increases have resulted in a doubling of orders. Even in good times, owning and running a business can be a lonely pursuit. Our hope is that these weekly conversations will let owners know they are not alone in facing challenges. Same thing with our daily newsletter, the 21 Hats Morning Report, which highlights the most important news of the day for business owners and which you can subscribe to at 21hats.com, where you can also find transcripts of our podcast episodes and lots of other articles and interviews. And please stick around at the end of the podcast for a new feature, Steve Krull's Marketing Minute. Joining me this week on the podcast are regulars Stephanie Stuckey, who is CEO of Stuckey's, the snack and road stop business best known for its pecan log rolls, and Laura Zander, who is CEO of Jimmy Bean's Wool, a digital yarn store based in Reno, Nevada, and Madeline Tosh, a yarn supplier based in Fort Worth, Texas. The episode is titled, Our Best New Accounts Are Coming Through LinkedIn. Welcome, Stephanie and Laura. Stephanie, we haven't spoken to you in a little while. What's going on?
So we've had some ups and downs. I think the world of small business, it's often 2 steps forward, 1 step back. But as long as you're moving in the right direction, that's positive. I'm going to start on an upbeat note. We're opening new accounts, and we just launched in 250 Easy, that's E-Z convenience stores. We're in all of their units, mostly in Texas, but also Arkansas. And they are selling our pecan log rolls, our divinity, our pralines, and our milk and white chocolate gophers. So that launched this week. And we've got a couple of other big retail chain accounts in the pipeline. So that's super exciting.
Have you done anything different to win those accounts? Is this a change in strategy or just continued hard work that paid off?
It's continued hard work that's paid off. And here's the interesting thing. The vast majority of our new accounts are from LinkedIn, especially the large retail accounts. It's LinkedIn connections. People will message me on LinkedIn and say that they're interested in our brand.
No kidding.
Yeah.
How involved are you in these new accounts? I mean, are you the first contact?
Yes, I do the lead. I do the pitch. And then my business partner is more the closer, but he is also really adept at negotiating these large retail accounts. And I hand almost all of those over to him after I do the initial pitch. And quite often I'll bring him in on the initial pitch. I think we've got a good vibe going where we know what each of us does best. And he's very good at figuring out the logistics and figuring out the pricing, because even though we have a main price spreadsheet, we alter that depending on the model and the distribution. Are we shipping to a centralized distribution center? Are there slotting fees, which is what you'll find in grocery channels? Do they expect us to bake in quarterly promotions? So there's different pricing formats that they'll often ask for. So we'll take a base price sheet and then curate it based on what the individual stores want or the chains. And that's what my partner is really good at. I frankly really enjoy the smaller mom and pop retail outlets that are more brand forward, and I'll coordinate with them on social media posts that I really think help to elevate our story. And they're more intimate. And most of those accounts actually we get from trade shows. So between trade shows and LinkedIn, that's where we're getting our leads from. And we always have stuff in the pipeline. It's just when it finally hits, it's a bit of a celebratory moment. So we had that this week with Easy Mart.
I'm really curious about using LinkedIn this way. Are you actually doing a pitch on LinkedIn? Or I know you have a big following on LinkedIn. Is it just a matter of big accounts coming to you? How does this work?
This has been absolutely fascinating to me. I am just telling my story on LinkedIn. And it's not just my story. It's the story of Stuckey's. It's the story of the road trip. But I'm so entwined with the story of Stuckey since it's a family brand and it's my name. But if you read my post, if you follow what I do, very rarely do I actually put out there a sales pitch. It's just talking about my journey as an entrepreneur in the Stuckey's comeback story. And then people are messaging me and saying, I want to be part of this. We'd be really interested in talking with you about carrying your product in our stores.
And that's what happened with EZ, the account you just mentioned?
Yeah, so that actually goes higher than that. It was the parent company, the CEO of the parent company reached out to me, GPM Investments, and we had a call. And that's a company that owns small C-store chains. I say small, to me it's a good size, but their sweet spot is convenience store chains. Sorry for using lingo. Convenience store chains that have about 200 to 250 units. And they'll buy those. They'll keep the brand name and the brand integrity intact, but they provide support and management. And under the GPM umbrella are about 2,300 C-store units. And so this is our test. If we do well with Easy Mart, then there's the potential to expand out across our portfolio.
It's so neat, again, to see that the validation of just be yourself, right? And just tell your story and just like, you don't have to push it to be a successful small to medium-sized business. I just love that. Like, that makes me feel so good.
I did a post called The Myth of the Girl Boss, which I think Laura can relate to, and it's to the point of being yourself. And I got very frustrated seeing these posts on LinkedIn, which is just your typical, I'm at a ribbon cutting, or I just got this award, blah, 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 which I post too. It's important. We all want to share in those wonderful atta-girl, atta-boy moments. But it gets a little redundant, a little repetitive, and I just had a day where things had been really hard for me, and I thought people just need to post more about what the reality is of running a small business. So I posted up there,
Amen.
The Myth of the Girl Boss. I had me it was a photo of me in a t-shirt. I was completely unglamorous. I was working at the warehouse, helping put together new concepts for our gift boxes, and I said there's a lot of days that are hard. There's a lot of days you're not glamorous. There's days when you are putting in insane hours. In fact, those are most of the days. And I know that there are women out there, I was talking about women in particular, who just look so polished, and they have the perfect husband and they have the perfect families, and they put it all out there, and it just seems so wonderful. And more power to them if that is actually their lives. But that's not me. My life is messy. I'm a divorced mom. I've got 2 kids. I'm raising them. Of course, I have support from my former husband, but still, it's messy. It's tough. It's complicated, and
it's messy. What a great word. Yeah,
that's life. And so I just put that out there. It got, I don't know. Last I saw, it was like 3,000 likes and about 600 comments, and
wow,
I think like 400,000 engagements, whatever that means, views. So it was a lot. It was a lot of response, and I really paid attention to the comments, and there were a lot of women who said, "Thank you. I feel that way too."
I love that.
I'm on a mission to make LinkedIn interesting again, or maybe I don't know if it was ever interesting. I'm on a mission to make LinkedIn interesting.
That's quite a cause. You've got a lot of work to do, Stephanie.
I want more interesting posts from CEOs and from everyone. I think what people connect with is just rooting for us to make it. Everyone loves a comeback story. You like to root for the underdog. There's a reason why Rocky is such a great movie, or I just watched Hoosiers again. And we love to root for the underdog. And so I think there's this sense of, yeah, we want to see them make it. And how can we be a part of that journey?
Okay, so Stephanie, you told us that you were starting with some good news. You seem to be suggesting that you've had some other experiences to share.
And now for the messy part. So the case of the squishy pecan log roll. This was not a fun call. I get a message from our warehouse, and I get in touch with them, and they said, our new batch from our new candy plant of pecan log rolls, our signature item, arrived, and the top layer in every box was flat. So they weren't pecan log rolls. They were, I don't know what you call them, pecan flats, pecan log flats.
Bars. They're bars. They're like power bars.
Yes, and squishy and
easy to chew.
Yeah, so our distribution facility is in Eastman, Georgia, so I drove down personally to check out the situation. It's the shipping process, and also I think it's a factor that it's summer. That's not helping. It's very hot in Georgia, and so it's a variety of factors. So we had a long conversation with our candy plant manager, and we changed the caramel recipe. We make our caramel from scratch, and so we added the thickening agent. We added some more thickening agent. So we just changed the quantities around. You have to be very careful because we've already done the packaging and the labeling and the nutritional contents and the ingredients. So you can't add new ingredients, but we could change up some of the processes. And we let the pecan, the log roll nougat sit out overnight to harden up. So not to get into too much of the detail, I think the big thing is that we had a big strategy session. We came up with a plan of action. We tried it out, and it does appear to be working.
How much bad product do you have? Or not bad, but squishy product?
It actually tastes delicious. We're talking about, I think it was 4,000 units. It was a good number. It was not an insignificant amount.
And how big a problem is the adjustment that you had to make to prevent it from happening again?
Not that bad, fortunately. It's just changing up the processes. And we're still in a bit of a trial and error mode because we bought a candy plant. They had to figure out our recipes, our ingredients, and make sure that the process worked for us. This is a building year for us. We're building our team. There's going to be some days like that.
So 4,000 of them, I mean, what did that cost you? You know, like what's maybe the opportunity cost or?
Our costs are 69 cents per unit.
Okay, so you lost a couple $1,000. Let's say if you were to sell those, maybe you sell them for $1.50 or something. So $1.50 times 4,000, $6,000. I'm just thinking we have a factory in Texas. You know, it's funny. I often talk about on the podcast and with people about all the people issues and problems we have. And it doesn't even occur to me until right this second. We have these sorts of factory issues once a week, all the time. Our supplier just ran out of a dye that we use for our yarns. Granted, I don't have like FDA and food quality and all that stuff. We don't have those restrictions. So it's a little different. But like we just ran out of a dye. And we've been trying to order it for 3 months, and the supplier doesn't have it. And it's affected, 20% of our business. And so we've got the head kitchen manager in there, redoing all the recipes to try to figure out, okay, if we could use a little bit of this and a little bit of that, we have about 400 colors that we work with. How could we recreate some of these colors and not lose business and blah, blah, blah. And then we just had, there's a yarn that we got $100,000 worth of it delivered to us, and we dye it, and it doesn't dye the right way because of the way it was treated. And so it's been a 6-month process. Like we've sent stuff out to Tennessee to try to get it fixed. We've tried to fix it locally, blah, 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 blah. So I guess, it's funny because now having this factory for 1.5 years or 2 years now, I have come to terms with the fact that these sorts of things are just a daily part of business. Like it is there. We're never not going to have some sort of product issue, some sort of supply issue, some sort of QA issue, because I've just been watching it. And so now I'm just surrendering to it and just accepting the fact that that's just the way it is. And I guess that's kind of like people issues. You're just always going to have somebody's not going to get along. There's always going to be some sort of drama. And to try to get it to not be that way is just like banging your head against the wall.
It's so true. I think the thing I've learned is just act quickly and don't try to minimize it. Really address the problem right when it happens, because it will only get worse. And my initial reaction with the squishy pecan log roll was, just roll it, it'll get better. And then I went for a walk and I thought about it. I'm like, no, we got to get a handle on this. Get your butt down to Eastman, go see it, go have a powwow with the candy plant manager. We need to tackle this ASAP. No problem gets better by just letting it sit there. So you just have to get a handle on it.
You know, Stephanie, I have found for me, just for my personality type, and maybe this is yours as well, but these kinds of things are actually my favorite part of the job because I get to come up with creative solutions. When I'd heard about the squishy rolls, I'm like, oh my God, this is awesome. Could you just mold it a little bit and make it into a cane? Could you change the shape and put a Christmas sticker on it? And all of a sudden you have limited edition log cane, or whatever, pecan canes for Christmas, charge twice as much for them. And then you can see if they sell really fast. And then all of a sudden you have this new product that you had never even realized. Or can you turn them into a heart? These kinds of issues are where we get a lot of new product things, a lot of new product ideas, and it gives us a chance to test things out that we had never planned on testing before and had never really thought about. I subscribe and I purchase clothes from this place called Imogene and Willie in Nashville, and it's so awesome because they do hand design t-shirts, like, the $60 t-shirts. And every once in a while, like I just got an email from them that they made some mistakes, right? They're selling the mistake t-shirts for $235.
Wow.
Because they're one of a kind. And I'm like, and they sell out. And I'm like, this is so brilliant. Absolutely freaking brilliant. And so we do the same thing. Like if we mess up, quote unquote, mess up a whole batch of stuff, then we're like, one of a kind. You'll never be able to get this again. Limited edition.
Okay, I want to ask you both about whatever supply chain issues or shipping issues you may have recently had. But first, we're going to do something we've never done here before on this podcast, which is we're going to take a quick break to hear from our sponsor, Work Better Now. Have either of you ever tried a virtual assistant?
No, but I would love a virtual assistant, and I've thought about it. I've just never taken the leap. It seems so intimidating.
Well, I'm about to talk to the co-founder of Work Better Now, so listen up and we'll be right back. Okay, I'm here with Rob Levin, who is co-founder of Work Better Now, which provides business owners with virtual assistants. How's it work, Rob?
You know as well as anybody, Lauren, that the pace of change in business has never been faster. Today's business owner has more to do than ever. And if you don't focus on important stuff like business development and your next product and service and customer experience and your team, it's impossible to keep up, much less to grow your business. An assistant can do the one thing that everybody thought was impossible to do, which is to give you more time in your day by taking all of the administrative tasks off of your plate.
How much does it cost?
It's $1,750 for a full-time dedicated assistant. And fellow listeners of the 21 Hats podcast can save $150 for the first 3 months by mentioning the word Lauren.
All right. To learn more, workbetternow.com.
That's it, workbetternow.com.
All right, we're back. Laura, we've talked about a lot of issues involving your business. We haven't talked about the companies that you operate in China and Vietnam for quite some time. And with all the supply chain issues that have been in the news, I'm curious, what's going on with them?
That's a great question. Vietnam has been locked down, and the lockdowns continue to slow things down. So our general manager and product developer, she actually has taken on all of the development and the work in China and Vietnam for the last year or so. But last I heard, Vietnam has been locked down. China's been okay, you have
a bag manufacturer.
We do. Yes, so it's called Dela-Q, and we had two different brands. So we had Dela-Q, which was produced in Vietnam, was a business that we purchased, and then Namaste was a business that we purchased that was produced in China. But we brought the two of them together, so we dropped the Namaste brand, and we are now selling everything under Dela-Q. So now Dela-Q, which is bags, we're doing some of the production in Vietnam and some of the production in China.
Have you been able to get product during the lockdown, or is this shut things down completely?
It's shut things down. So we had a heads up that it might happen. So they were pushing really, really hard before that happened to get some stuff to us. So we're kind of rolling with it. We're placing much larger orders, just in case this happens again. And so it's affected us. What's affected us more actually is like right now in South Africa, we had a container of yarn that was supposed to be here now. And we just found out a couple of days ago that our shipping company, DSV, did not realize that the container never made it on the boat. So they lost our container, and they just got it on the boat a couple of days ago, but it's sat in South Africa, like in a yard somewhere for a month without anybody realizing that it was there. So now my task this week is to talk with them and negotiate, and we're going to have to figure out how to airship some stuff because it didn't make it on the boat. And then we've got the issues, like I mentioned before, with the dyes, so the products that we use to create our products, the shipping industry is still just overwhelmed, and just can't get stuff out. 2 years ago or a year and a half ago, we would say, okay, I've got a container's worth of stuff. Can you ship it out? Can you fit it on a boat next week? And they would say, yes, absolutely. And now it's like, can you fit a container on the boat in 2 months? So, the delays are just super significant.
Stephanie, have you had supply chain issues either?
Absolutely. With our packaging from China, we ordered the packaging in February. The shipment got lost in the port of Savannah for a couple of weeks, but it was delayed for months. It was in that Panama Canal mess when there was the blockage and everything was delayed. And we did not get that packaging until about 2 weeks ago. Late August.
It actually got all the way to Savannah, but then got lost?
Yes, couldn't find the tracking number, the something number. There was a certain documentation, paperwork, and delay at the ports. And it's not just Port of Savannah. I'm not picking on Port of Savannah. This is every port. It is due to worker shortages. This is what I'm reading in the industry and the trade publications. And the cost of containers has skyrocketed. If they're all stuck with delayed shipments in port and they're not turning the containers as rapidly, there's a shortage of containers. So that's jacking the cost up. Containers usually cost a couple thousand, like $2,000 to $3,000 for shipping. It's gone up to $20,000 and up. And the big retailers like Walmart and Target are coming in and paying these exorbitant prices because they want to make sure that their customers are guaranteed of being able to get the product they want, which means the smaller businesses like Stuckey's, we are not able to afford the shipping costs. So we either look for domestic manufacturers or we look for, there are some distribution centers or some vendors here in America that had the foresight to see this coming and started stockpiling inventory. So we're working with some of them. Or we're getting a lot of product from Mexico. So we're not having the shipping container issues from Mexico. So we get Falsa blankets and Baja jackets out of Mexico. So you just get creative. And certainly we always like to buy American anyway. We want to support our local economy. And the tariffs are pretty exorbitant, depending on what your product is, especially from China right now. So there's just a myriad of issues related to supply chain. Most of it, the finger of blame would be pointed to COVID. It's all COVID delays. It's been a rough year.
Yeah. Are you passing on some of these extra costs?
We have not yet. We've held tight, and we've been fortunate in that now that we own a manufacturing facility, we do make our product ourselves. So that is saving some costs, but it's coming. We're not going to prevent ourselves from being profitable and earning the kind of income that we need to for our team. So it's coming. And every time we get a price increase from one of our partners, we save it. I have a whole folder. It's labeled price increases where I save all the messaging. So when it does happen for us, I've got the messaging points. I can read what others have done, and we certainly will be consistent with our partners. The one we got most recently, just a couple of days ago, was Moon Pie.
I was also going to ask you, what about the wages, of the people in the factories, and the people in your factory and the people who work for you? Are you seeing a huge wage increase? Because we are, right? We're seeing, I was actually just talking to a guy last night that owns a trucking company, and he's increased his hourly wages by 40% in the last year. I mean, we've done some similar things.
As much as 40%, Laura?
Yep. Actually, I've been thinking about it for quite a while, but we're really evaluating like our business model, and we have been moving towards less volume, not necessarily less revenue, but not trying to grow revenue and trying to grow profit margin, so that we can increase wages the way that we need to. So like we've raised our prices. We announced a price increase for next year, and we for our factory, for our products in Texas. And we sold out. Like what we've been doing now, because we can't keep up with the demand, is we say, if you want some of our products next year, tell us now. And within 3 days, we double sold what our capacity was for next year.
At the new higher prices?
Yes, at the new higher prices, and we added an MOQ, like a minimum that was double what the minimum was before, like per product. So we put so that we can get some efficiencies, so that we can, increase margins, so that we can pay our people more, and provide a better environment. I mean, that's what it all is really boiling down to. It doesn't change, anything for the bottom line necessarily. We're just trying to shift money around. And also, what I believe is that the really astute business owners that purchase from us, they recognize that if we raise our prices, that means they raise their prices, which means they actually make more money as well. And the consumer is happy to pay an extra $1, or an extra $2 or an extra 50 cents. Most of them don't notice it.
Well, the timing of it is interesting that you went ahead and announced Q1 of 2022 will have an increase.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm surprised you're getting all these pre-orders. That's really interesting to me. I would think that people would just start buying up your product now before the increase goes into effect.
We have found that from what has worked well for us, both on the retail side and on the wholesale side, is that if you're going to do a price increase, you give people maybe a month, either a month to 6 months, depending on if it's direct to consumer or whatever. And we have driven sales so high, like when we announce it. So if you say, okay, in 3 months, there's going to be a price increase, so stock up now, then people just it's amazing. It's really cool. It's human nature.
Yeah, I think 3 months sounds like a sweet spot, but I need to give some more thought to it. And we have had to increase wages, Lauren, in answer to that earlier question. I don't know the percentage, but we looked at it more holistically and are putting together, we've already added some additional benefits, some more holidays, some more leave time. And we also put together a program to allow folks to advance more and get higher salaries as they get more responsibility and can get promotions. So we've tried to put a whole structure in place.
Are you short-staffed right now?
Yes, but we are trending. I always try to look at the trend, not just the point in time. We are steadily adding staff. We're getting there. We need to add more, but we are adding to the candy line and the pecan roasting line. And pecan season is upon us, and the shelling plant will be in full operation very soon.
And you think you'll have enough people for it?
To be determined. I think so.
Laura, are you still short-staffed, or has the increase in wages made a difference?
In Texas, this production manager that we hired is apparently a hiring rock star, because he brought in 5 people yesterday or earlier this week. He's got 5 interviews today. We hired 3 people yesterday. We're killing it. It's incredible. Really, really incredible. So in Texas, we're doing really well. In Reno, it's harder. Like I said, the wages here are just unbelievable. So the competition, because this is such a distribution center, I guess, you've got all of these distribution companies. So that's where we're We've lost, I think, 5 or 6 people in the last month. And we're really trying to decide, do we want to replace them and how do we want to replace them? We've been able to hire some customer service, but it's the fulfillment side of things and the warehouse side of things.
Did they leave because of money?
Various reasons, like 2 of them, people cashed out. The housing prices here have just skyrocketed. So like one guy sold his house, moved to Michigan, and was able to buy his house in Michigan for cash. Another girl did the same thing in Idaho. So they moved to Idaho. So people are just leaving. One guy, after COVID decided that he wants to be a pro roller skater and bartender. So he left. I guess that was, but he'd been there for 6 or 7 years. Somebody else left that we kind of wanted to leave. We've had a couple people leave that we pushed out a little bit. So it hasn't been altogether horrible, and we're surviving. I mean, it is what it is.
Have either of you had changes in your the COVID situation recently with Delta?
We have in Texas. 2 weeks ago was a tough week. We had a number of people out. And a couple of them had just gotten vaccinated. They had just gotten their first vaccines too. But in Nevada and Reno, we've still, over the whole 2 years or the year and a half, we've had one instance. We had one person test positive, and that's been it.
We've had a key worker and a supervisor level in the candy plant and the manager of our distribution facility, neither of whom was vaccinated. We have been trying to be proactive in encouraging our staff to be vaccinated. The main staff is at the manufacturing facility. So we had the local hospital, Jefferson County Hospital, actually came on site and gave free vaccines on site to make it super easy. We let people have time off from work, get the vaccine. Obviously, if you have any side effects, to take the day off and rest up. And so we offered that as an incentive. And we did have some staff do that, but we had several who did not. Our candy plant, our shelling plant, it requires, health regulations require already that they have to have hair nets, gloves, mask, and the person who came down with it was a supervisor, so was not actually working hands-on with the food production, but was supervising within the facility. So it's rough, especially the distribution facility. We have the number 2 person has had to step up to the plate and manage everything, and she's got close family members with COVID.
Do you give them a bonus, or do you just say thanks, or how do you handle that?
Good question. All of this just happened this week.
Yeah. And I'm asking for myself as well,
To be determined. That's worth consideration. I'm thinking out loud here, but it might be more appropriate as part of the year-end bonus to have some recognition for the hard work.
I know, and we thought last year was going to be rough, right? We thought that was it.
It was rough, Laura.
Oh, yeah. No, you're right. But we thought that that was it and we were done. January 1st, it's all going to be better, right?
All right. Well, lots of threads that we will continue to follow. My thanks to Stephanie Stuckey and Laura Zander. As always, thanks for sharing, guys. All right, and here it is, your Marketing Minute with Steve Krull of Befound Online. Here's today's question, Steve. Google's making a significant change in July. Should I be afraid or excited?
Lauren, I am super excited about this update. First, it's the first truly user-centric update that I think Google has ever made. Everything in this is user-centric. And if you can take advantage of this update, which will be rolled out in phases, you can leapfrog your competition. I compared a client's website to their biggest competitor, and while the client graded an F, their competitor was a D. If they jump that F to a C or a B while the competitor is asleep at the wheel, opportunity abounds. Now, it doesn't forego the need for great content and regular and recurring content, but it means you could give yourself a competitive advantage by taking advantage of the Google Page Experience update.
All right. If you want more details, look for Steve's Marketing Minute blog post at 21hats.com. Wait, don't leave yet. If you have a question or a comment that you'd like the 21 Hats owners to address, send it to me by replying to your morning report or by email at lauren@21hats.com. That's LOREN@21hats.com. Do it now before you forget. And don't be afraid to tell Jay what you really think. He can take it. And if you got something out of this conversation, help us reach more business owners. Tell a friend. Subscribe and review us wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us on Twitter. Subscribe to the Morning Report at 21hats.com. This episode was produced by Jess Thuberon, founder of Blank Word Productions. Okay, now you can leave. Thanks for listening, everyone.